Hey designers, and welcome back to class. So in today's class I'll be teaching you how to draft a pencil skirt or a straight skirt, whichever one you feel like calling it. It's still the same thing. So I'll be teaching you how to draft a straight skirt with hip and butt contouring. The hip contouring will give it a little bit effect of an hippie or curvy hip, anyone, so that it will seem as if the hip area will be enhanced. It will come as in, it will be visible very well, even without you padding the hip, without you doing hip and butt padding. With just the contouring only, it will give you an effect that will change the entire look of the hip area, and it's very easy and straightforward to understand. There will just be a little changes in what to be doing. No, in everything we do, there should be a time you unlearn, you will relearn and learn again. So like what has it's been said, so there is an need for an upgrade class. You not just do the same thing all through. So as we will be drafting, we noticing some changes, and if you are not cool with the changes, feel free to do what you prefer doing. Pick one or two things from what I'm about to teach, add yours, and create something new again. So now let's dive into the drafting properly. Okay, the first thing you'll be needing for this particular drafting is your measurement. This is very important. See, I've written out my own measurement. You'll be needing the length of the skirt. You can either do three-quarter, a short skirt, or a long skirt, anyone you want. Your waist measurement, your hip measurement, and most importantly, these two things are very important. You'll be needing your butt length and your knee length. That is where the effect contouring takes place. So you'll be needing your butt length and your knee length. Your butt length, place your measurements on your waist or anywhere you prefer that the skirt should be starting. Place it there and measure it down to your butt area. You know the way we do measure our under bust. So you use your tape measure to lift up the butt area to get your butt length. I hope that is clear. So do not miss out this part, the butt length and the knee length. Then you'll be needing your tape measure, your pencil, your pattern master and curve ruler. Then you'll be using your eraser for the drafting to erase any unwanted lines in that particular place. And if you want to do freehand method, just feel free, do what works best for you. But this is a pattern drafting class, so I'll be making use of a pattern before transferring to the fabric. So let's get started. What I'll be doing is for me to get my length, and the length I'm working with here says 28 inches. So there's something, if you want your skirt, some people prefer if their main fabric is visible inside there, that the lining drags it upward. If you want that, you can do 4 inches 4 inches for the folding allowance before your lining start. And if you just want something little or your fabric is not enough for you to work with, you can just make use of 2 inches, or you are sewing without a lining or interfacing, just use 2 inches. But if you're adding a lining, you can either use this or this. You can either use 2 inches or 4 inches, whichever one is very perfect. But for me, I'll be using 4 inches. So I measure 4 inches, so I'm going to rule that out. Done that, the next thing for me to get my length measurement. So I'm working with the length of 28 inches. Note, I'm starting from the 4 inches for the folding allowance. Here is a folding allowance. So don't start your actual measurement from here. Rather, you should start after your folding allowance. So I'll be doing 24 inches. Then I'll add half inch for sewing allowance. And if you are putting a band, this is a that bandless skirt. So if you are adding your band, you take out your band inches. You take it out. For instance, if you are doing 2 inches for your band intake, so 28 minus 2, you have 26 inches plus half inch for the seam allowance. So if you're not doing band, just measure your full length and the the sewing allowance. Sorry, so this is 28, and now then I'll mark that out. Rule out my length and my folding allowance. I've ruled both lines out. So the next thing now is for me, because I'll be drafting both the front and back on the same pattern paper. So the next thing I'll be doing is for me to pick the biggest measurement from my measurements here. So I'll pick it, which is the hip measurement. So my hip measurement divided by 2. So that my pattern paper will be enough for me to draft both the back and the front. So I'll pick the hip measurement, which is 38 inches, divided by 2. I have 19 inches. So 19 inches, I can do 19 and a half, or do 20. No, not 19. Sorry, pardon me, please. You'll be dividing it by 4, not 2. So 38 divided by 4, we have 9.5. Okay, 9.5. Not 2. It will be divided by 4. So 9.5 plus 1 inch, I have 10.5. So I'll mark it. I also mark 10.5 here, and also at the upper part, so that I can have a straight line. Okay, then I'll rule it out. Okay, now this part will serve as my front part, and this will be my back part. Okay, so now let's go into the measurements properly. So the next thing, after you've gotten your vertical and horizontal line, the next thing is for us to get our hip line. Sorry, hip line is not on the measurement, so you need to include that, or you just use a standard hip line measurement, which is 9 inches. So I'll measure 9 inches from my, now this line will serve as my waistline. Then from the waistline, I'll measure my hip line, which is 9 inches. Then my butt line is 13 inches. I'll measure that. Then my knee line is 21 inches. You measure that also. Then I'll rule out the vertical lines now. So now I will label my vertical lines. The starting point here will serve as our waist. Don't forget that. Then this will be our hip line. Then my butt and my knee line. So I will extend this line also at the back part, because it's the same thing. I'll just extend it and show you what it looks like. Okay, so I've extended the line also. We can also label the back part, the hip line, the butt, and the knee length, or knee line, whichever one is fine. So now I'll put my measurements. Start putting my measurements. My waist measurement is 28 inches divided by 4. I'll have 7 inches. For the upper part here, I won't be putting any dart intake. For the front part, that's some changes that occur in this particular skirt pattern we are drafting. I will not be putting the dart in front. And if you prefer your dart to also be in front, don't forget to add your dart intake, which is 1 inch or 1.5 inch, depends on the dart intake you are using. So for me, I won't be putting the dart intake. So the next thing for me to do now is for me to get my hip measurement divided by 4, which I have 9.5. So there's nothing I'm going to be drafting here. So I won't be drafting anything here. So on my knee line, here, if you want a very pencil skirt, a narrow down part, at a narrow shape at the down part, you take your hip measurements, total measurement for your hip measurement minus 8 inches. The total measurement 38 minus 8 inches for you to get that narrowed shape at the down part. But if you prefer your straight skirt not to be too fitted, not to be too narrow, just do whatsoever you feel it's okay for you. But for me, I'll be reducing my hip measurements by 8 inches. So 38 minus 8, I have 34. inches. Okay, I have 30 inches left here. So the 30 inches divided by 4, I'll be having 7.5 inches. 7.5 inches. And remember, if you be having a narrow down part at the down part, make sure that your slit is high so that you'll be able to walk freely. But if you don't want that, just do your normal hip measurement minus 1 inch at the knee area. You can also use that. Whatever you have here on your hip measurement, reduce it by 1 inch. For instance, here I have 9.5, so I'll be having 8.5 inches on my knee measurement. But if you want it to give it that figure 8 shape, you follow this method. Whatever your hip measurement is, reduce it by 8 inches. Then the total value you'll be getting here, you divide it by 4 to get your knee measurement. Okay, remember, I'm not adding any sewing allowances to this part because this is a pattern drafting. So the next thing is for me to connect my lines together, then I'll show you what it looks like. So this is what it looks like. I intentionally leave here so that I can show you what you need to do here. So the value you have on your nail measurement should also be the same value you have on the length you are working with. So I'll just use my stress ruler to connect it down to my length. This is it. Okay, so one more thing to go. If you are doing sewing your skirts separately, if you want to have the inner finishing, if you are doing the interfacing separately and you are sewing your skirts separately, so that the seam part will not be visible, so just mark it, rule it straight down like so. But if you are adding the lining, you want to sew the lining, like the front part you want to add your lining first, at the back part you want to add your lining first before joining it together. So just come out a little bit, just slant it out a little bit this way. Okay, both the inner finishing and the outer finishing has their own advantage. They have their own advantage. For inner finishing, it will look very neat inside. There won't be any seam part showing. You won't be having any thread. You won't see any thread showing. But for sewing separately, it's easy. For inner finishing now, if you want to amend, maybe the skirt is too big or too tight, you need to loosen it and turn it out again to sew. But if you do the lining and the fabric together by sewing it one by one, it's easy for you to amend. If it's too big, it's very easy. You just go to your machine and run it out. There won't be any parts you'll be losing again. So that's that about that. Now we'll be moving into the back pattern. The back pattern is where the hip contouring takes place. Do not contour the front part. You don't have your hip. Our front is flat. There's no hip in front. Your hip is at the back. So now I'll go into the back part fully.